Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. So this is going to be a little bit of a chilled out talk about arcane mages. Yeah, I boosted up a mage a while ago, been tinkering around with it, and while the last few weeks have been a little bit more paladin focused, maybe the last 2 weeks, before that I was heavy into the mage, and I still am enjoying the class quite a bit. In fact, I perform quite a bit better with the arcane mage than I do with the paladin. Though, it's funny, I find them both to be very easy classes to play, so I'm not particularly sure why I do so much better with the mage. But anyway, let's just start off by talking a little bit about the mechanics of the class. So it really is quite simple, just in case people don't understand. The class mainly revolves around your main just nuke abilities, called like Arcane Blast or something. And every time you use Arcane Blast, it puts a buff on you. And the buff will increase the power of your next arcane, or well, of your like magic stuff, by quite a bit, but it will also increase the magic cost, the mana cost, which is the big thing. And once that hits 4 stacks, it gets to the point where you actually can't keep on spamming your main nuke. So then you have to do arcane missiles, which you can get charges off through a proc, and then you can burn off all your stacks via arcane barrage or something, which just sort of blasts off all the stacks and hits the enemy in one big lump. And balancing those three abilities is essentially the crux of playing the class. But what's really interesting about the Arcane Mage is their mastery. And their mastery means that they deal extra damage when they are above 80% mana, and then slightly less extra damage when they're above like 60. And I just feel that that's a really interesting way to do a class, and it ends up making gameplays a lot of fun. Now, buttons-wise, I think a little bit of a critique that I would have for the Arcane Mage is that I just think it could do with one more button to spice things up, just one more thing. Because right now it's very much formulaic, though the way that arcane missiles can proc can be kind of entertaining from time to time, so it definitely gets sort of bonus points for me in that regard. But overall, I just think it's a little bit too simple for it to hold me really in the long term. Though I think that because of that, it's actually a really great alt class. I can just hop onto it at any time and know exactly what to play, and play the class not perfectly, but at least pretty well. And now I know that in the background footage I have in this video, I totally mess up, like I'm using arcane missiles at like 1 stack, which is a little bit shitty, so sorry about that. Still though, so there's that's just like how the main class plays out. I feel it's okay. What I do like though is how it feels punchy. As you build up stacks of that buff, your abilities hit noticeably harder, to the point where you're getting like arcane blast or whatever your main, just the thing that I have on number 1 on my bars, and where it's hitting for like a few 100k at some points, and that just feels great. You really do feel like you're doing work. When you get a really charged up arcane missiles, it does a lot of damage. And then when you burn off all your stacks with that ability, whatever it's called, a barrage, I think, that also hits really hard and it feels great. And I think that constant change in numbers and power does add a little bit more just fun to the class. And it's one of those classes as well that scales ultra well with haste, actually. And now I know that the main thing you're supposed to stack with the class is mastery, and that is what I stack. But just going around in the Timeless Isles, when I get the Chi G buff, holy crap, it's it's just unreal. The class is so much fun to play, and when that's happening, and the same goes for when heroism's up on a boss. In fact, it's crazy. When heroism's up, your rotation is, or your priority system anyway, is going so fast that you have a lot of split-second decisions, and that really is awesome. So great stuff there, and overall my impressions of the class are just, maybe a little bit more complexity would be nice, but I do enjoy what's there. And then one thing that a lot of, it's very different, I suppose, about the class, is their, one of their main cooldowns, which is, like, time warp, I think. Basically, it will take a snapshot of how your character is now, and then 6 seconds later, it will return you to that. Now that's a little bit weird, so say I had 40 seconds left of heroism, then I used time warp. Well, then heroism would keep on going down to 34 seconds, then time warp would expire, my character would revert to the state that it was when I first used time warp, and I'd still have 40 seconds left on my heroism. Now that's really cool, and the way that that sort of interacts with charges of arcane missiles and things like that is incredibly rewarding. I think it really is a fantastically designed cooldown, and I hope they don't remove it or tweak it too much in Warlords, because I really enjoy using it, which I think is great. Now, one big thing about the mage, which was very different for me and just a little bit weird, was the idea of not being not having amazing survivability. I know I can like freeze things and use slow and Frost Nova and various things like that, but it's not like being a paladin where I can use my judgment sort of juiced up heal, and when I can use that buffed up flash of light or lay on hands. It's not like my hunter where I just don't take damage in the first place because I have my trusty turtle. No, with a mage it's really different actually, and it's strange because from a leveling perspective, it was kind of annoying until I really got the hang of things, and once I did get the hang of things, I just wrecked through things. It was fantastic, loved it. Though I did boost this character, so I only leveled it up to 60. Then I used for the first time and only time so far the £40 paid character boost, and that's just because I had no time and I had some money, and I decided, well, this doing this character will allow me to make more videos, it'll allow me to have a better perspective on the game as a whole. And I feel that's actually been a very valuable experience because I now understand paladins and mages and hunters and kind of expanding my repertoire, warriors as well, and yeah, stuff. So that has been quite nice. One other thing though that's a bit weird is maneuverability, because the other classes that I play are a hunter, a paladin, and a warrior. They are very mobile classes, ultra mobile classes. You can always just nearly full DPS on the move. Not really the case with an arcane mage. They've got this really weird thing to allow them to cast while moving where they get 3 charges of it and the charges like replenish every 30 seconds. But you use a charge of that ability and that means that your next arcane blast, barrage, or missiles or whatever can be cast while moving. Now that, I think it's just really clunky the way it plays out, but it's definitely the one that is the best for raiding. I still need to work on how I use it though. But it does feel clunky. However, it is very much a standstill class, and that is the way it's supposed to be designed, and it's a class that definitely rewards good planning. Because of another thing, actually, it's called Rune of something or other. Basically, you'll see me do it in the video, I place this arcane rune thingy underneath me, and that means that I regenerate mana at a faster rate, which is great because it ties in with the mastery well, and it just allows you to stay above 80% mana for as long as possible. And that's very cool. And, yeah, you can have up to 2 of them active at once, so ideally I suppose you just pick 2 locations, ideally about 20 yards apart so that you can then blink from location to location and really not have much movement at all. And I guess that in a full-on raid case, any of that, go click the button, go do the thing, just farm it off to the hunters, I suppose. As a hunter, I feel that's a part of what I should be doing anyway. So yeah, that definitely is something that's very different about the mage. I feel like I don't bring a massive amount of utility other than Bloodlust, and I guess mages are getting a little bit more utility, but not really just in terms of stackable raid cooldowns or anything like that, which we are getting one in Warlords, but just the fact that I am very much a standstill DPS that's only good for DPSing when I can stand still, that's a different feeling to me, and I think it's an okay one. If you just have a mage you can go in there and really do work, that's fantastic. But yeah, it's just different to me. It's different. And then when I guess when you compare the Arcane Mage to the other ones, from what I hear, Arcane's the easiest to play. But one problem that sort of hurts you when you try to switch mage classes, or mage specs even, is that every single mage spec actually uses a completely different set of stat priorities. So Fire's all about crit. Mastery is for the arcane mages, and I'm not particularly sure what Frost is for, but basically when you switch around them, you need to get new gems and enchants and all that guff, so that really is kind of impeding me wanting to move and try Fire, because I know that at high gear levels, Fire is apparently absurdly fun to play because of the way its mechanics work, and I'm sure I will try it out at some point and bring you a video covering my thoughts, but that's just a little bit of an overall criticism that I have on mages. I don't think that's the best design. Hopefully just the reshuffling of stats in Warlords of Draenor will help it out though, because I just don't think that's a really good thing to have in your game. Alright, so do I have any other thoughts about mages? I guess armor-wise, I haven't really liked any of the stuff that I've picked up in Pandaria. In fact, the level 90 boost armor on my male mage, my male human mage, looked frankly a little bit ridiculous. Just because of the physique of the human male and all those various things, it was just a little bit absurd. And I found it slightly hard to just come up with decent transmogs. I've got 1 or 2 that I'm looking at, I just need to muster up the time to transmog out the mage. And it's funny, looking at Reddit or Reddit/transmogrification, a lot of the really cool things that are for mages actually are kind of priestish, or very much just based on being fire or frost, which only really appeals to some people. So that was a little bit of a thing with mages, but overall, I think it's a fun class. It's really easy to pick up for Arcane. It's pretty easy to play, but from what I hear, to play an Arcane Mage really well requires a lot of planning and a lot of skill. It's sort of a class that's extremely easy to play okay, but decently hard to play at a higher difficulty, like at a a very high efficiency, I guess. So that's maybe something that adds a little bit of headway. But right now, I just have that feeling where I've kind of worked out how the class plays. It's just a matter of executing everything perfectly all the time, which I guess is where we all come to in some classes. It's certainly not like, say, the Feral Druid, which definitely took me quite a lot more time to get used to, though ultimately I'm just not finding the Feral Druid to be much fun in comparison to my Paladin, because the Paladin's just, like, if you just, watch my Retribution Paladin video, but it's very much, like, it's very smashy and just hit button thing happen, awesome. And that's one of the aspects of the Paladin that I find to be just a ton of fun, actually. So yeah, I think that's about it for the Arcane Mage. I guess like tables are kind of useless. The mana gem mechanic is a little bit, I don't particularly care for it too much, honestly, but I don't really hate it either, so that's fine. And yeah, that's literally all that I can think to talk about. In terms of Warlords of Draenor, I guess I may as well just mention, I don't think this will be one of my highest priority classes to level up. Maybe it'll be my third level 100. I know my first will obviously be my Hunter. Then my second's either going to be the Paladin or the Warrior. And the third probably will be this guy, unless I take a particular fancy to any of the other classes that I'll be trying out before Warlords. Anyway, that's it for the video. If you are a mage of any of the various flavors, let me know what you think about the class and what they're doing to the class in Warlords of Draenor. Do you think that's good or bad? And just all those various thoughts. It'd be kind of cool to know. Anyway, that's it for the video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.